Downstairs your crew are Barney and Fred. If you have any worries, problems or concerns whilst you're going round on the harbour tour, please don't hesitate to speak to one of the crew. Now this is HMS Warrior, the big black ship here, the first of our iron-hulled warships. Built in 1859 on the River Lee, commissioned in 1860. It was built on an 18-inch thick vermetique frame that after they bolt the iron plates onto. The ship was steam-powered as well as sail. In its day considered so formidable, nobody would dare go anywhere near it. It never even got to fire a shot in anger. It was the pride of Queen Victoria's fleet. It was head of the Red Fleet. Back in the day when Britain had three fleets, the Red, the White and the Blue. Now the Warrior was built by a company called the Thames Iron Works. They had a little football team. Over the years it's become West Ham. This is why their nickname is the Hammers or the Irons, because of the Thames Iron Works. Now keep facing the Warrior, please. Remember that's our starboard side, our right-hand side. For the first half of the harbour tour, everything we're going to look at and what you're going to pass by is over the starboard side. So let me just swing the front of the boat round. And just here to the right of us is the corner of the South Railway jetty. So the start of HMS Nelson. 3.5 miles of continuous quay that's operated by the Navy. Now the big red brick building here with the stone tower is called Semaphore Tower, hung to the King's Harbour Masters. We call them KHM for short. They have total control of every vessel's movement in and around the port, from the smallest workboats right up to the largest of the cross-channel ferries. Now they're always watching with their radar and CCTV, and they have Ministry of Defence police who patrol the harbour 24 hours a day. Now just over to the right of us we are approaching a blue building here. This was the waiting room of the Victoria Railway Station, quite literally. End of the line, last stop for the troop trains. Supply trains, the very occasional Royal train stops here. If you look into the gap in the jetty, there's a big stairway on the side of the building called King's Stairs Jetty. So named because Henry VIII would use the stairways here to board his barge that would row him out to the Solent, where back in the old times the ships would anchor and would be to anchorages. And they still use them today. This is the corner of Victory Jetty. And look back there, you'll see HMS Victory. HMS Victory is covered in scaffold of plastic because she is 14 years into a 20-year-long restoration project. They've pretty much finished all the inside of the ship. Now they're concentrating on the outside. So for the next 4 years, they want to remove all the outer timbers from around the ship, right back to the main frame, replacing them all as they go with new oak. It's a total restoration. Now guys, this is warship Tyne. Now I'm not going to say anything about the Tyne because when we get down to Fountain Lake Corner, we got an identical one, the Severn. And the only one missing is the Mersey. Yeah, they're all named after the rivers because they are batch 1 river class patrol vessels. Now look over to the right, there's a grey bridge going over the top of the gap in the camber. Look underneath the bridge now to the gateway. If you were to pass through that big gate and make your way back, you get to number 1 dry dock, the oldest dry dock anywhere in the world today. Now last week folks, they turned the aircraft carrier around and it's much better when she's got her bows pointing south. A lot more to look at. At 65,000 tonnes, this is the Prince of Wales, second of the two, QEC or Queen Elizabeth class carriers, mostly built in Ross ice, 284 metres long, 39 metres wide at the waterline, 73 metres wide on the top deck. A full quota of aircraft, 36. Now they can easily manage up to 70. Most of the aircraft are F-35B, Lightning II multi-role fighters. The rest, all the different types of helicopter. Crew complement on board the carriers, 679. There's purpose-built accommodation for up to 250 Marines. And when you add the pilots, the air crews and all the technicians, you're looking at 1,600 people, reaching speeds over 30 knots, operational range 10,000 miles. Now guys, have a look here. This is the back aircraft lift has been lowered down. They put all the things, and you can see they can shut the hangar doors. They're not completely shut, but they can totally shut off the hangars. So this is how they get the aircraft in and out the hangar and up and down onto the top decks. These carriers cost £3.2 billion each to build. Now guys, we're half an hour away from high tide today. So we've still got a little bit of tide coming into the harbour. The end here, the north corner. Because in the olden days, Portsmouth Harbour was so shallow, every time the tide went out, the whole of this end of the harbour would dry away into miles of mud and marshland until the tide came back. Now back in those times we had at our disposal thousands of Napoleonic prisoners. All of the water I'm about to drive us through now, they dug it out by hand. It took years. If this wasn't enough for these people, just to the right of us there are 5 dry docks, long black gates across there with bright yellow railings, stretching across to the 2 tugboats in the far right corner. Each one of those dry docks will lead you to a 30-acre lagoon of water. We have them digging all that out, so when they finish over there, they line the floor with bricks, they let the water flow back in. You can keep it high tide back there, no matter what's going on outside here. Now over to the right, folks, that's called the pocket, because literally, if you can see it from above, it is the shape of a pocket. And it is operated by Serco. Now there's some tugboats over there, there's some fuel barges over there, and we have the Northern River. That's the big boat here with the yellow cranes. That is Serco's largest vessel. Serco are a massive civilian company who support the Royal Navy all over the world. Whether it be tugboats, fuel barges, supply vessels, all Serco. Now they've moved HMS Dauntless, we'll talk about her on the way back, but coming into view straight over there now is the Dragon. Now she's behind that cream coloured building where these 2 little cherry picker cranes are. Now HMS Dragon is number 5 of the Navy's 6 Daring class Type 45 destroyers. And if you've not seen her before, have a look at the big red dragon on the bow of the ship. Now she's in refit. She's been there 2.5 years, and so far she's got new engines, new generators, and they've given her an extra generator to boost the power supply. These ships were a little bit underpowered, so now they've sorted out and remedied that problem. They've stripped down and rebuilt all of her radars and missile tracking systems. They will go through that ship inside and out, top to bottom, finishing by painting the ship inside and out, top to bottom. She will then start about 7 months of sea trials to bed the new engines, the generators, all the missile tracking systems, get them all operational. Then she will be handed back to the Navy. It's taking 3.5 years per ship, and when they finish her, in about 10 months' time, this will be the 4th one to be completed. Now, if you like photographs, you can get a nice photograph of the destroyer with her big red Welsh dragons on the bow here. Now, we're just coming down to the second ship that I promised you. This is Warship 7. Now, as I said, there's one more, the Mersey, but she's currently being painted like this. Now, up until last year, these ships were fisheries protection. But last year, the Navy finally were able to hand over those duties to a civilian body. So they've painted these ships like this. The Mersey is the last one to be painted. So they are recognisable straight away as being offshore patrol vessels now. But they're using them to help train new recruits into the Navy too. So you can find them anywhere in UK waters, keeping an eye on what's going on. Great ships, really are. Now, as soon as we get to the bow, the front of the 7, look into the 30-acre lagoon of water. Remember, that's where the 5 dry docks lead you to. So hundreds of Napoleonic work parties were digging all that out by hand, while thousands more guys were stretched out here digging this out. Those huge hangars or sheds over there, which read Naval Base Portsmouth, used to be the home of BAE Systems. We don't build ships here now, but we got the contract for the maintenance. And you can see 2 of the ships over there in refit. Now, the one on the left with no radar, they've just started before Christmas, so she's got 3 more years to go. And on the right, that's HMS Daring. They very nearly finished her. Now, this big ship here, the Wave Knight, was a fast fleet tanker, a replenishment at sea ship. You would rendezvous with her out at sea, and she would fill you up with fuel. Now, while you were there, you could be getting more food, water, ammunition. If you ordered them, she'd bring your spare parts out to you. Look at the size of that massive helicopter landing pad on the back. You could even do crew changes. The helicopters would fly in the new crew and fly the old crew out. Excellent ship, but sadly she just wasn't big enough to look after the aircraft carriers. This is being done by 4 much bigger and much newer Tide class tankers. So this one has been taken out of service, decommissioned. Mothballed, is up for sale. The round stone tower just to the right of us here was built by Napoleonic prisoners digging out this end of the harbour. We get them to build it so our guards could stand up on the top deck and try to keep some sort of watch over them. They really were scattered like ants everywhere, and if they could cause any problems, trouble or mischief, they would. The tower is the end of the Royal Naval Quay, and we're now looking straight into the commercial port of Portico. Portico are the 2nd biggest importer of fruits and vegetables in the UK, second only to Dover. They bring up to 70% of Britain's bananas here. We are fully booked with cruise ships for the next 2 years, and we are the 2nd busiest ferry port in the UK. Now, this ship here, they say it, Côte d'Argent. You might go content, but the cocoa tube, the French guy say, Côte d'Argent. And she looks after Cherbourg. She normally goes on the next harbour tour. Now, later, the lunchtime Brittany ferry will be coming from Caen. They come from Cherbourg, Le Havre, Saint-Malo, Normandy, Bilbao and Santander. So not a bad selection of European destinations that you can get from here. We've also got 3 Condor ferries, Commodore Clipper, Commodore Goodwill and the Condor Islander, who between them look after the Channel Islands. back of the Coteton. Coming into view, a big grey building, HMS Excellent, home to the Second Sea Lord, headquarters to the Royal Navy. All of the land you're looking at across there, folks, is an island. It's really big. It's called Whale Island. It's very famous. Now, you remember all this side of the harbour and the dry docks, all dug out by hand by prisoners? Well, the island is all the mud and dirt. They took it across there and dumped it until it built the whole of the island. It literally takes them years. So a little chap having a sail today on this dinghy. That looks really good fun. And that thing looks like it's moving quite fast. But guys, if you look over to the right of us, we're just coming up to a barge that's tied up here. On top of the barge, we've got a big orange crane. Now behind this barge is a small boat with a thin red funnel on the back of it. Now it doesn't matter where you are sitting or stood on the boat, wait until you personally are right in the middle between the barge and that little boat with its red funnel. Follow the sea water straight back to a castle sat on the deck. Just see a massive big castle. Portsmouth Harbour, but it was a Roman fort originally. Those walls, they only built the outside walls first of the fort in 285 years later being used by the Saxons. Now when the Normans find it, it's in a bit of a state. They repair it, they add on to it, they build the buildings within it. And they turn the old Roman fort into Portsmouth Castle. Now 285 is documented. This is when Portsmouth Harbour had become a naval base then. Roman ships were defending the port first. Now remember guys, we're at high tide. Underneath the boat where I am here, it's reading 12.6 metres deep. All the way back to the fruit sheds behind us, right till the level of the aircraft carriers. This is the strip of water originally that was dug out by hand. And they had dug approximately those where all those red posts are happening to the seabed. Now tonight guys, when the tide goes out, no exaggeration, the entire centre over there, 16.5 miles of that water will be bone dry, mud and sand. Even now in some places it's knee-cap deep. That's why you don't see any boats trying to cut through there. They follow the deep water channels all the way around them. Have you spotted the two frigates over there, look? Monmouth in the front, Montrose at the back. Two Type 23 submarine hunters. Now both of those have had their day. They've been taken out of service, decommissioned. They have been stripped of everything and anything that can be used elsewhere. And in September this year, the front one, the Monmouth, will be towed away to the scrapyard in Turkey. How much do you think the scrapyard paid the Navy for that frigate? £700,000 scrap value. Now guys, you don't often get to see this. Look at the destroyer, look at the cranes. This is known as UHAF, UHAF, Upper Harbour Ammunition Facility. There's the ammo barges, jet black with the red stripes. They are lifting missiles one by one. Remember there's 48 missiles in that ship. One by one they are lifting the missile, they are loading her up, and this ship is going out properly on duty. Maybe for some months. Now she's been here in the dry dock for 7 months. They only brought her out last week. So it's her turn to get out and earn her keep. HMS Dauntless, second of the 6, daring class, Type 45, guided missile destroyer. So remember, you have Upper Harbour Ammunition Facility. Good view of the carrier from here now. why the carrier is covered in marquees. They are resealing all of her runways, coating them with a heat reflecting system. Now this stops the jet wash of the F-35Bs literally melting the runways. Now it can only be applied in near perfect conditions, so always under the protection of the big marquees. In front of us, slightly to the right, covered in green bushes and trees here, Burrow Island. Ask any of the locals, Rat Island. For a short time across there they dumped the bodies of the prisoners who died digging out the harbour into a pit until it's appalling with the rats eating the corpses. The local people were terrified. They fear the return of the plague and commissioned the Navy to clean up the island. During the Second World War, hidden in amongst the bushes over here, were homing pigeon lofts. These little pigeons carried messages back over the English Channel from France, working for the SOE. Now for a change, look at the front of the carrier, the HMS Victory, launched in 1765 at Chatham. Back in those old times, this was a first-rate ship, one of the best fighting ships available. Every time you wanted to build one, you would have to cut down 100 acres of your best forest. Sadly, Nelson is seen by a sharpshooter and shot, carried down below decks. Before he dies, he asks his colleagues not to be buried at sea. He loved England with such a passion, he was desperate to know he had a Christian burial back home. The problem they have is what to do with the dead body. You see, HMS Victory has been beaten up quite badly. They're towing her to Gibraltar for repairs. They won't get back to England for months. There's no refrigeration, anything like that. The ship's surgeon, William Beatty, has the idea of pickling the body in a whole barrel of French brandy. 3 months later, Victory gets home. He takes off the lid. He's done a marvellous job of preservation. His body is removed from the brandy and taken to London for the funeral. Of course, back in those times, do you know how much a whole barrel of French brandy cost? It is not going to waste a drop of it. The officers and crew decide, well, we should all have a little drink then, in memory of our fallen commander. It doesn't take much imagination to guess from where. They said on the day, everyone on board that ship had commented on its full-bodied flavour. Now just here to the right of me is the OFJ, Oil Fuel Jetty. Look how far out from the shore it has to come till we get there where it's 15.5 metres deep. This is so the tanker, Cumbrian Fisher, loaded with NATO fuel the warships can tie up. The fuel is pumped out of the Fisher along those silk pipes to the big storage tanks ashore. Now when our warships need fuel, look over to the right, those big black and white barges. Look behind us, there's a tugboat coming with a smaller one. They take the fuel over to the warships because it's much safer to do it that way round. Looking underneath the jetty, you can see into Gosport Marina, and that's home to millions of pounds worth of small leisure and pleasure craft. This section at the end, opening up here, is Dover Quay, a boat builder. Now there's been a boat builder of one type or another over here for close to 200 years. Now up until the 60s, a very famous boat builder, Camper Nicholson, was here. Now in the 1930s, Camper Nicholson, amongst many other boats, but they had designed and built the fabulous wooden J-class racing yachts for the America's Cup, mostly owned by very wealthy Americans now, who choose to keep them in much sunnier climes. A good view from here of Spinnaker Tower, 170 metres or 560 foot tall, as they were building it for the millennium, They wanted to call it the Millennium Tower, only from day one of its construction, problem after problem, setback after setback, it's eventually completed in 2004. So they call it the Spinnaker Tower, as it's supposed to look like a spinnaker sail. The estimated build cost back then had been 6 to 8 million, and the lottery people said we'll pay for that. 4 years behind schedule, this rockets to 34 million. They say we're not paying for that, and it's left to the local ratepayers to recover the tower. On a clear day, they say from the platforms, you can sometimes see 23 miles or more of continuous coastline flag. Now over to the right of us, folks, is Hasler Creek, which of course was HMS Dolphin, the Royal Navy submarine base. The last of the diesel-class submarines left there in 1987. It was once, all becoming nuclear, heading to Devonport and Faslane. It still remained as Dolphin until 1990. Whereas the fast catamaran over to the left of me, White Rider 2, has literally just called up asking to back away from the railway station. So I know the King's Harbour masters won't let me cross yet, so we don't normally do this. I will try and point out a big black submarine. Let's look over to the right of us, please. There's a marina. Now look at this big green and white light ship here that says Hasler Marina. Now right behind it, look at the bow with that tent, that cover. Now straight behind that cover is a jet black submarine pointing at us. Now remember, because it's black and it's pointing at us, it's thin, you've got to really look hard to see it, so look here, just keep going. Now, can you see the two big grey hangars or sheds back there through the masts? The submarine is high up in the middle of those two. Let me keep going a bit further. You see the customs boat here? Big grey navy looking ship. Look to the front of that. Ready? There's the round roof of the first grey hangar. The submarine is immediately on the ready, pointing at us. There, look. I can see the conning tower, I can see the bow. Right in the middle of the two grey sheds. There she is, coming into view now. Now that's the Alliance, the Royal Navy Submarine Museum at Gosport. We are running a little boat today called the Water Bus. If you haven't had the tour through that submarine, I highly recommend it as being one of the best attractions in the whole of the dockyard. It is fantastic. So let's go back down to the red post ballast beacon. That's where I must obtain permission from the King's Harbour masters to cross the harbour.
The thing they did was block the tower.
I've had permission from the King's Harbour masters to cross the harbour, astern or round the back of the outfield. I'm very interested to have a look how many people are on board this ferry. Well, it's not too packed, because these ferries are taking all the festival goers over to the Isle of Wight. It's the Isle of Wight festival over the weekend. And thousands of people are going across. They started arriving yesterday. And look at that lovely view out into the eastern suburb. You can see the forts out there that had all been built as part of the Parks and Follies. Built out of 15-foot thick stone blocks, dropped onto the shallow shoals on the seabed. They've each got their own freshwater well. The wells are 401 foot down. The water comes by a river under the seabed from France. Now the one in the middle here and the one over to the right by the Isle of Wight there, they were hotels and they did quite good for the first 2 years. But by the third year, they were struggling because they were so weather reliant. Every time it gets rough, which is a lot even in the summer, they had to cancel. They were struggling before COVID, folks, to be honest, but by the end of COVID, they never opened up again, sadly. Just here to the right, steeped in history, Spice Island. Right there, Sir Walter Raleigh lands the first tobacco, potatoes and spice plants, which they come back from the Americans in the late 1500s. Now years later, they are press ganging hundreds of men and boys into the Navy from here. Why is there always so many sailors hanging around there then? Well, first of all, there was over 100 drinking establishments here. But apparently what made it just a little bit more popular, it was home to the infamous Broad Street. Broad Street was where ladies of the night would sell their ill reputes to the drunken sailors. But folks, we're just coming up to the first of the 2 stops. This is the shopping centre called Gunwall. If you are leaving now, have you got all the belongings and possessions you brought aboard?
We got to, I think.
Thanks ever so much for coming along this morning. We really hope you enjoyed our harbour tour. If you did and are that way inclined, then we do have a thank you tip, which of course is optional. I'll be here 10 minutes before going back to the dockyards. If you would rather end up there, stay on board the boat, please.
Hi gang, it's Wayne here. Don't know if you can hear me or not. But I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. If you have, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel. It would be marvellous if you do.
Are we going to disembark now?
And over the summer there'll be lots of Portsmouth Dockyard videos going out on the channel as well. Anyway, hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.
Okay. Ready to disembark?